First Things First is sponsored by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday. This is First Things First. I'm Jen Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. We have a great show today because we had a great weekend of sports. The Celtics got booed off their own floor this weekend. Dak Prescott had some interesting comments about Tom Brady and his lovely wife. But we will start with the big showdown between the Lakers and the Sixers. Well, at least it was supposed to be. Turned out to be a big blowout between the two. Joel Embiid led the way for Philly with 37 points as the Sixers, boy, they just ran away with this 143-120. New addition Tobias Harris chipped in with 22 points. Watch out for the 76ers starting five. They looked good. The Lakers now back up to 500, 2.5 games out of the playoff picture. Here is LeBron after the loss.
We had too many breakdowns, way too many breakdowns. I mean, we scored the ball as well as you can score the ball, especially in that first quarter. But, we gave up too many pain points. We didn't keep the floor, shrunk and make many outside jumpers to begin the game. And once they start getting to the paint, then it kind of opened up everything else.
It's only been 2 games, but I think we got a chance. We got a lot to work on. Obviously, our whole offensive package hasn't been, used. We got a long way to go. But I think the potential we have, especially come playoff time, matching up with other teams, I think we got a chance, and we got to keep working, keep getting better, and learn how to play with each other.
All right, so, Nick, we'll get to the Sixers side of this, but I want to start with the Lakers. LeBron laid out a number of things that the team did not do well, in addition to their lack of defense in this game. Are you concerned with the team you see out there now? Because this is the team that we're going to have the rest of the way now. Are you concerned this team doesn't make the playoffs?
You can't dismiss it as a possibility. We're at the point in the season where you can start looking at the standings. You can start saying, okay, how many wins is it going to take to get the 8 seed, to get the 7 seed? And by my rough estimate, the Lakers got 10 losses to play with. 26 games left? 26 games left. They got 10 losses. I think they're going to have to get to 44 and 38 if they want to have any shot at the 7 seed, and that might be the minimum threshold just to get even the 8 seed. And so you look at their schedule, you look at what they have, and you say, okay, they should be able to get the 8 spot. They are going to have to play well to be able to get the 7 spot, but you can't look at a game like last night or yesterday afternoon where they play no defense whatsoever, where it's a 4-point game with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. LeBron goes to the bench, and when he comes back in 5.5 minutes later, they're down 20, and say this is a team that is playing the level of basketball it's going to need to be able to make sure they go 16 and 10 down the stretch. See, I know that they didn't have Lonzo, but that when he comes back, it's just going to add a little more uncertainty, even though he's a good player, to what are right now Luke Walton just throwing darts at a rotation. Reggie Bullock, you're new to the team. Why don't you start? Josh Hart, DNP coach's decision for any reason in particular? Not that I can tell. Like, they are...
He might have given him a chance to rest that knee. He's been struggling with the knee injuries, giving him a few games off, so he might have given him an extra couple days.
Right, and that's probably what the rationale is going to be, but I don't think they went into the game knowing Josh Hart's definitely not playing, and I don't know what the reason was why Reggie Bullock... It's one thing to start him because you want to add shooting, but for Reggie Bullock to get 30 minutes and Rondo to get 15 minutes when he was coming off the great performance against the Clippers, it just feels like, or against the Celtics, pardon me, it just feels like there's a lot of guessing going on, and we don't have a lot of time for guessing left in the season.
No, there's tremendous concerns, and it's based on those 18, 20 games LeBron James missed. When you take a quarter of the season with this young team, then you get to the end where now they got 25 games. So their margin of error, it's been sucked up in LeBron's absence. So what they can't do is they can't panic. What they can't do is right now is just continue to build on what they're doing, because Nick might have a goal that they need to reach the 6th spot, but they just need to get in the playoffs. And I thought it's very disappointing because you would think after the Boston, that was a huge upset in being able to get that win there, that they would follow it up with a decent performance, and through 2.5 quarters, you thought, okay, they're right where they want to be. LeBron have a big push in the 4th quarter. It's anyone's game. But This is what we saw in Cleveland. LeBron goes to the bench. By the time he comes back in, yeah, the game, you can still win it, but you have to burn so much energy because of the deficit. So these young players that are very, very talented, that's the big difference in Cleveland. When LeBron went out, they just weren't that talented. They're still very, very talented. And at some point, you have to decide, and most teams do it, and we see it all the time with the Warriors, you have to put the intensity on the defensive end. And they just did not have that yesterday.
The defense was horrible. And to C's point about LeBron, this is one of the risks. LeBron very clearly, it seemed to me, especially with how well Kuzma was playing, was trying to moderate his workload, if you will, for a fourth-quarter push.
Yeah, he wasted all that energy going to watch Zion play, and he didn't do nothing the night before. I mean, the evening before there in Virginia.
Right. So, I mean, he should be ready to go. But then when you've got something, an extra charge left for the fourth quarter, but then you're down 20 when you go in the game in the fourth quarter, you'd have been better off going all out early to try to give your team
They made a big push to try to get it to single digits.
Absolutely. And so, like, just like the Celtics game, there would have been some positives even if they had lost it, if Rondo didn't hit that shot. Let's say somehow in the fourth quarter the Lakers hit 8 threes and they win this game 145-143. There would still be enormous concerns in a win because 120 points is supposed to be enough to at least be in the game. Like, Kyle Kuzma having 23 in the first quarter is supposed to be a game where it's like, all right, we're getting an outlier performance from our #2 guy. These are games that if we don't win, they're at least close late. And the number of open threes and wide open just drives to the lane like it was an all-star game. The Lakers defense, which had been solid leading up to this game, they gave up. It looked like a team that was on 3 games in 4 nights off a back-to-back, and they weren't. They were rested. I know it's a road trip, but they were rested. There's no excuse for that.
There was one play where Joel Embiid literally just waltzed his way in. There was no one that even stopped him. So let's just talk about the other side of the ball. And talk about the 76ers. I mean, they had Tobias Harris there. I think it was his second game. They looked like it took them all of no time to figure out how to play together. They do have some issues, but how good is this starting 5 right now for the Sixers?
Well, let's just talk about their center. Joel Embiid's a special basketball player. Now, he's fulfilling all the prophecy that people said. Man, if he's able to stay healthy. They weren't able to say, oh, if he develops this. He already had all that. He could shoot a 3. He's got a low post game like a post player that we haven't seen. So everything starts in this NBA that's without centers or big men. Everything in Philly, to me, it starts with Joel Embiid. That's one of the biggest mismatches on any team facing the opposition. I don't care what team you put out there. You put Golden State Warriors, DeMarcus Cousins, oh, he don't want no piece of him and what he can do. So, for me, their ability to have a dominant player, and it should be established off Joel Embiid. Man, Jimmy Butler is not the player Joel Embiid is. Ben Simmons is not the player. And if they start that way, if they run their offense through him, if they play transition, and then when they get to the half court, they go through Joel Embiid, to me, that's the way that they would scare the rest of the NBA. If they don't do that, which Joel Embiid, he talked about there in his soundbite, sometimes offensively, they're not structured. They had some problems. Jimmy Butler complained about the offense. So we know they're elite defensively because of the size, and they have 3 very good individual defenders. But from an offensive standpoint, go through Joel Embiid. When you're not in transition, go through Joel Embiid. That, to me, that's a special unit. That's a special team. And I wouldn't be wanting to face Joel Embiid. No. I want to play Giannis. I don't want to play Giannis, and I don't want to face Joel Embiid because I just believe in the playoffs, forget the whistle. Okay, Joel Embiid had 37 yesterday. 11 of 12 from the free throw line. So go ahead and foul him. For Joel Embiid, of all the great true low post big men we've seen, one enormous edge he has is he's so physically imposing, but putting him to the free throw line is something Sixers are happy with. Like, that is something, it's not like, oh man, if he doesn't get the end. It's like 2 of the other great centers. Kareem, you couldn't foul him. Elijah Wan, you couldn't foul them, and that's what made them special. Not in the fourth quarter. Oh, if you foul him, you're automatically giving them points.
And one thing he's done so much better this year is something actually your brother pointed out a year and a half ago when we were eating with him, which is the NBA, the way it's officiated. They let the defender beat up on the big man in the half court. The one spot where the offensive big man has an edge is in that secondary transition. He could run down, get his spot on the block, and knock the hell out of whoever's on him. And they never call an offensive foul on that. Embiid got that coaching point this summer because when he's running down the court in the secondary transition, he is burying his guy, basically shoving his guy out of bounds and then reposting. Ben Simmons and others have been very good at seeing that, pitching it ahead, and that's a layup. So you also saw in this game, and you're going to see the added spacing with Tobias Harris out there where he has more room to maneuver in the paint. He was spectacular yesterday, and the Lakers had no answer, but the reality is most teams don't have any answer for him.
One note, only James Harden is averaging more free throws right now than Joel Embiid.
Yep.
So, good for him. Time now for Put a Grade on It, sponsored by CarMax. Speaking of Embiid, he had an excellent game. We mentioned it, 37 points in the Sixers win. Nick, go ahead and put a grade on Joel Embiid's night.
I'm not like CC. I don't do pluses and minuses, so I'm just going to give him an old school A.
There you go,
I thought it was
You're
excellent.
getting better, man.
I don't know how you give him anything other than an A+ if you're into that. He was great.
Yeah.
He was the best player on the court, and he was great on both ends. They had no answer for him whatsoever.
His intermediate game, too, is developing to be very, very special. He had some dream shakes about 12 to 15 feet away from the bucket. So special player. Looking forward to seeing how much better he's going to get.
All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, the Celtics got booed off their own floor next on FS1. And you can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We're back right after this.
I need to